So, as you can tell, my better half has left me. I know. And it's and I will tell you now, it is not the same snuggling with Greg as it is my wife. Very different experience. Is that going to get me hurt? Oh, good. So I can't tell you how much I love your pastor, though. And I know I say this all the time, that I like the culture here at New Day. But to hear a pastor challenge you in a way that says, if you're not willing to put the time, and obviously you're all here and willing to put the time in. So I'm not speaking to you directly. But to those who haven't come, or maybe let me word it this way. For those of you who are here, so who is here tonight? Raise your hand. There was actually a really interesting study done in the United States, and what they found is that for the couple who even just purchases a marriage enrichment resource of some kind, a book, a DVD study, something of that nature, their relationship improves even if they don't read it. No, I'm not making this up. When I first discovered this, I developed an entire new strategy for my books. Now I just have wonderful titles and covers and nothing inside. But no, it's actually true. And here's kind of the deeper insight. What does it say about you if you go to the store and purchase the marriage enrichment thing? Or what does it say about you if you're willing to give up 2.5 hours of your life on a Tuesday and Wednesday evening? What does that say about you? Anyone want to take a guess? No. It does not say that you're in trouble. You're invested, you care, you're willing, you're awesome. Is that what you said? Oh, did you say possum? Tossum? Convicted. That wasn't even close. Wow. Convicted. Amen. I heard black splitter give spelba. I have very bad hearing, born with it. What was that? And who else wants to say it? You come because your husband. That's what you said? You came because your husband. Who said that? Where is she? Well done. So you value your husband. Thanks a lot, workout buddy. Now, would someone please translate for me, since I am not Africana, what did Hensia say to you, like in English, when you walked by? Ooh, is it naughty? Chicken heart. Really? Oh, right. Do y'all ever play that game when you open fortune cookies and you read the fortune and then you end it with in bed? I almost did that with that statement. That would have been funny. See, she's laughing. She knows. So, in all honesty, okay, you know the guy back here that said, we came, why did we come to these things? It's because we're in trouble. That is what the majority of people believe. But I have literally surveyed over 200,000 couples at live events just like this. And I asked them to rank their marriage on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being highly satisfied, 1 being you should probably sleep with one eye open. Guess what now we used to assume the very same thing. People that come out to a marriage enrichment event are probably going to be, I think our assumption was either 5 or below, right? So kind of middle, not happy to really, really unhappy. Do you know the average couple rated their marriage? 8.5. Isn't that interesting? It kind of validates that other study, doesn't it? The healthy couples, guess who they are? The ones who attend church, the ones who get involved in community, the ones who purchase the books, the ones who go to the events, the ones who invest in their relationship with God and their relationship with each other. And so, some of you here, because there's always a rather smaller percentage of you are genuinely really stressed out. You're 5 or lower or even 3. And that's okay, but I want to encourage you, and Robert's sitting here in the front row, for couples who are actually really stressed out, this is not actually the best environment for you. There's another really good study out of the University of Minnesota by Dr. David Olson, who found that for couples in crisis who just go to a large enrichment event like this, 6 months later, typically their marriage was worse off than what it was before. And so for those of you who are here and really in crisis, I want to encourage you, relax. When you're in crisis, it's hard to implement what I'm teaching tonight or what I taught last week. It's hard to do that without a third party because you have so much emotion, so much pain, that it's difficult to do the right thing. Even though you're hearing healthy stuff, it's hard to implement it when you're really in crisis, but that's why we have marriage mentoring and one-on-one help for you. Okay, so I will encourage those of you who are really in a tough spot to take a deep breath and then call. And you came, so you're allowed to meet with a pastor or one of the counselors because you came. Not Greg. Of course, that would be foolish. So, I know they have a whole, Robert leads that thing up, right? I don't know why I wanted to check that. I got nervous. And so Robert will actually pay you to meet with him, which is a big part of why he's so successful. All right. So tonight, oh, and did we get the image for tonight? Okay. We don't need to show it yet, but thank you. So, all right. So who was here last week? Holy cow, that's awesome. Good. Who wasn't? All right, a few of you. Well, don't worry. All of this stuff stands on its own, and I think we taped it, so you can probably listen or watch it. It might be on the internet already. Wayne? Yeah, it is. So I would encourage you because it was good stuff. But tonight, we're going to learn why couples break up. So this is going to be a really fun evening. So what's interesting and what we've learned, and we've been doing this and researching this stuff for over 20 years now. Well, including my father's ministry, we're over 50 years. And what we've discovered is that there is a very specific pattern. We call it a dance, but there is a very specific dance that people get into that leads to divorce, or leads to disharmony, or dissatisfaction, unhappiness. This isn't what I wanted. This isn't what I was, this isn't why I got into this thing, because of how I'm feeling. It's so negative all the time, and we don't ever seem to resolve anything. Well, there is actually a universal pattern. And when I say universal, it does not matter the culture you come from, the country you grew up in, the color of your skin. It is literally identical for everybody. Is that believable? And you know why? Because there is a God. There really is a creator. And guess what he created us for? Relationship with him and relationship with others. I'm telling you, it's been a really interesting thing for me because I am sensitive to other cultures and people and socioeconomic groups. So I know a white boy born in Chicago is going to think and act differently than someone born in India or someone born in Africa or someone born in China. But I have literally taught this exact same thing in China, India, Africa, South Africa, Europe, Canada. trying to think of where else. Do what? Oh, one of you remembered. It's my country's birthday. Thank you. It is the 4th of July. Traditionally, you know what I'd be doing right now? Did someone say jacuzzi? Wow. That's actually really good. How did you know that? Had I said that before? She reads minds. I would probably be in the jacuzzi, and I'd be shooting fireworks at my children. If you don't believe me, my wife has video from last year. My kids, it's like a badge of honor. You know what a Roman candle is? Because I know you can't shoot them here, right? Because it's too deserty. Or you'd kill each other with them. Right? But you're not allowed to have fireworks, right? That is not a life worth living. I grew up, spent a lot of time in Arizona. We also weren't allowed to shoot fireworks in Arizona. But in the Woodlands, Texas, where I live, it's very green, very humid. So they're like, get after it. So I have a game with a Roman candle, and I give them like 5-second head start. And then I shoot Roman candles at them. It's awesome. They have protective eyewear, so. Last year, my youngest, one hit him in the abdomen and stuck on him and burned him. I know, he was so proud. He's like, Dad, look, you think it'll scar? I'm like, I hope so. I know, it's not the safest thing, but that's what happens when you do crack on the 4th of July. Start shooting fireworks at each other. And if my wife was here, what would she say? He doesn't really smoke crack. Or maybe I do. I don't. I still have all my teeth. So, yeah, thank you for remembering that it's the 4th and for distracting me. So this is a universal pattern. Actually, one of my favorite memories ever of teaching this, I was doing missions work, working with orphans in Uganda, and there was a village out in the middle of nowhere. I don't even know how they knew who I was, where I was, but somebody came to the village I was in, said, would you please come to this other village because there's this major fight brewing between the chieftain and his sister. I went, heck yeah. I would love to be a part of that. So they drove me out, and it was an old village, right, in the old circle-style huts that you're used to seeing. And I show up, and I'm thinking, no way is this going to make sense. Because I know that all conflict centers around this cycle. And so I get in there, and I start hearing about what's going on. And the next thing you know, I'm literally in their hut with the fire going in the middle, dirt floor, and I'm drawing this pattern, and I think they got into some crazy argument over goats. Seriously, it was insane. I was like, I cannot believe I'm helping resolve a conflict over goats, where people were going to die. And so, I mean, you don't get that every day in the States. And so I'm drawing this pattern out, and lo and behold, just like everyone else who I've ever taught this to, they were freaked out because it's exactly what was wrong. Because what you're learning tonight is that it is never about the goats, okay, or the facts. Because what do you tend to argue about? You didn't take out the trash again, right? You argue about you met me late. You're always running late. You never dress appropriately. You kid about smoking crack when you're preaching. Right? I mean, can anyone think, like, how many of you have had a recent conflict in the last 10 days? And anybody willing at all to share what it was over? What was yours? Oh, there's so many to choose from. Anybody? It can be over a refrigerator. Yes? The sports shop? Oh, cricket. So what I'm trying to explain to you tonight is not about the cricket stuff. It is not about the sports stuff. It's not about the chores, okay? It's not about finances. It's not about the children. It's not about the in-laws. I always feel uncomfortable saying that because there's inevitably in-laws here. Who's an in-law where your children are married? You're an in-law, the worst sort. Right? But people get into fights over in-laws, finances, children, chores, personality differences like what we learned last week. If my wife and I get into a fight, it is not just because we are opposites in personality. There is a very specific cycle that goes on. Let's put that slide up. And we call it the conflict dance. Why is that funny? I left one out? Which one? Oh, you're also not fighting over sex. I'm assuming that's what means. Because I know in Brazil, so I want you to look at this pattern and notice here I say an event occurs. It can be anything, and here's the truth that is so important for you tonight. It doesn't matter what it is. These circumstances or facts, I feel like I'm in your way. The circumstances or facts are literally irrelevant when it comes to your relationship. And let me prove it. For those of you who are willing to be honest about having conflict in the last 10 days, how many of you were focused on facts? And how did that go? Think about it. Think about the last time the two of you got stuck on a fact of some sort. Chores, sex, money, in-laws, kids, parenting style, whatever. How did that go? Did it go really good? Did it feel super fulfilling? Right. I mean, you know that. But the problem is we don't know what to do differently. And that's what we're learning tonight. Jeez. Gosh. That was terrifying. I went to look up and there was a gigantic head. All right. So an event occurs. Let's say I'll use the two button words that are on this graph. I can't think of a single example. So let's say we're getting into the car and my wife says, hey, put on your seatbelt. Right now, in today's world, most of us wear seatbelts, right? But that used to be a very common argument, right? So my wife says, so the event is, we're getting into the car, and my wife's like, oh, you know what, put your seatbelt on. How might I feel when she makes that statement? See the male figure? Could I feel controlled? Right? So all of a sudden, the button of controlled gets pushed, and what happens when a button gets pushed? There's going to be a reaction. Something's going to happen, right? So I feel controlled, and then my reaction is the shut down. Now, tonight you're going to learn of the four, there's only 4 negative reactions that you can make that lead to divorce. 4, that's it. There are not 50 million reasons why couples divorce. There are 4. This is so big. This information literally changed my own marriage when I was 20. I got married when I was 21. And 6 months into it, we were miserable. I mean, it was a disaster. Our honeymoon was a disaster. Oh my gosh, 3 months into our marriage, I was so depressed and so anxious and so wounded and so hopeless that at 2 in the morning, we got in this rabid fight. I went running out of the log cabin we were living in, ran down the road, and the only way that I could see getting out of this marriage was to die. And so I straight up laid out in the middle of the road and waited for 4 hours for a vehicle to come and run me over. Because I was like, well, I can't divorce her. I don't have grounds for divorce, but I'm miserable. I'm never going to get over this hurt. My dad's a famous marriage guy. I'm actually in my master's at that time for marriage and family therapy. And I thought, if I'm practicing to be an expert at this stuff and it's this miserable, life isn't worth living. I really did. Think about how discouraged that is. I laid out in the middle of a road for 4 hours to get run over. It was dark. It was in the middle of the night. Now, granted, it was a semi-private road, but still, I actually half expected her to get in a vehicle, come and find me and run me over. And then 6 months into my marriage, I got invited with my dad and brother, who was also in school, to this huge breakthrough study reveal in San Diego, California, and it changed my life. Because up until then, I had no idea. It was so practical. It made so much sense. I didn't understand why we were so miserable, or frankly, why I was so miserable. She was also miserable. And then all of a sudden, I go and spend 3 days. The wool gets ripped off my eyes, and I finally have words that I can use to understand why we were so miserable. And so when I say there's only 4 reasons, these guys, Doctors Howard Markman and Scott Stanley, did a 25-year longitudinal study. 25 years. That's a long time. Their basic research question was, why do couples divorce? We actually helped them develop an 8-question assessment. How many of you have downloaded my free marriage app? Wow. It's very hurtful. You want to download it, and you're going to go, why would we want to know this? But trust me, because on our app, it's Reignite Your Marriage. On our app, we have an 8-question test that can predict divorce 93% accurately. That's why you're going to, why would we want to know that? My thing is, why wouldn't you want to know that? Why wouldn't you want to know that the way you're interacting with each other, if it doesn't change, could end up in divorce? Why wouldn't you want to know that? It doesn't mean you have to divorce. What it means is if there's a red light, yellow light, green light, if you score in that red light area, that's a 93% chance if you don't change how you communicate that you'll end up divorced. 93% accurate. 8 questions. Does it sound like maybe they're onto something? Yeah, that is called high predictability. So an 8 questions, and it's totally free. You can access it on the app as well, or just go to the website. You can access it there. But 8 questions, all those 8 questions do is determine how often these 4 things are happening in your relationship. That's it. Guess what one of the things are? Let's put the slide back up. One of those 4 is if you shut down. Avoidance, as a reaction, leads to divorce. Now, I am a mega avoider. I mean, my whole family are avoiders. I grew up in an avoidant. The only way I ever knew my mother was upset with me is when she'd show up really late to pick me up from school. I was supposed to be picked up at 3. It'd be like 4:30. I'm sitting outside going, I don't know where she would be. She'll come rolling up. Sorry, you going to make your bed tomorrow? Like, is this about my bed? No. So very passive-aggressive home. And so why would avoidance or avoiding lead to divorce? Nothing ever gets resolved. And what do we avoiders do? We stuff and stuff and stuff and stuff. But eventually what happens? We run out of room, right? And what you know a volcano? There you go. I had a couple once, been married 38 years. 38 years, both were avoiders. Husband comes home, wealthy guy, owns some big engineering firm on the East Coast. Comes home after 38 years, walks in the house. The wife's at her desk in the kitchen doing something. She's like, hey, honey. And all he says is, I'm done. And she's like, what are you done with? What did you finish? He's like, nope, our marriage. I want a divorce. Stunned her. They'd never yelled, never screamed. Now, 38 years is a long time to stuff. But avoidance leads to divorce because nothing can ever get resolved because you won't talk about it. So I might in the car, wow, you're getting good at that. I might in the car, she says, put on your seatbelt. I don't want to put on my seatbelt. I start feeling controlled. And then if I react by shutting down, what am I doing? I'm giving her the what? The silent treatment. Right now I'm shut down and I won't talk to her. And now here's the worst part of this thing. If we react in any or all of those 4 negative ways, it will 100% of the time, it will push a button in the other person every single time. So when I start shutting down, how might she feel? Ignored, which she probably was already feeling ignored because has she asked me to wear a seatbelt before? Absolutely. I'm still not doing it. So she felt ignored. She says, put it on. I feel controlled. I shut down. And she now feels more ignored, right? Now, how does my wife react? She escalates. That's number 2 of these 4 things, these 4 negative reactions that we have to stop. Okay? So what does escalation mean? What I love about escalators is you're never confused if they're upset or not. There's literally never a doubt, right? Because what are they doing? Yelling, screaming. When I got married, I had never, other than my football coach or basketball or whatever, coaches had yelled, but in my personal life with my parents and my siblings, I'd never been yelled at. I didn't know that people yelled at each other. I was genuinely unaware of this until the age of 21. And then I get married to an Italian who's not even Italian. She could be Puerto Rican. Do you guys have like a society that just... Anybody? Maybe people from Bloemfontein? Feels like you guys always make fun of them, and I don't know why. Remember, you sent me down there a few years ago. I loved it. It's good people down there. Good earthly people. It really was awesome, though. So for the first time in my life, I'm 21 years old, and this person I chose to marry is literally red-faced screaming at me. On our honeymoon, I was stunned. When we got home, we left our honeymoon early. I shared that, right? We were supposed to be on a 7-day Southern Caribbean cruise, and we left on day 6. We had to get special permission from the captain to get off the boat. And he's like, are you sure? Yes, I want to get off the boat. And then we get to our little apartment in Waco, Texas. She is slamming doors so hard that things are falling off the walls. Anybody? Yeah, that's right. Don't be judgmental. And so she escalates right out of control. On the honeymoon, yes. I was too good in bed, Greg. And she couldn't handle this. I kind of like how I turned that one around. Feels good. I'll tell you what I did. We got stuck on facts. because I wanted to go somewhere on our honeymoon. She had actually been engaged before. I don't know how many of you, I've shared our love story before. Yeah. So, Satan. That was his name. That's right. And so, I couldn't quite let that one go. So they'd been to Puerto Rico before together. And so when I found out, I shut down. She starts feeling ignored and unimportant. She starts escalating. Right? So escalation, why would escalation lead to divorce? Because you say and do things you can't take back. It gets out of control. Just understand this. Avoiders. Who are my avoiders? You know who you are. I know it's hard to raise your hand. All right. Do you hear from me tonight? It is wrong to avoid. I'm looking at you, avoider. Yes. See, he's already shutting down. No, you have to hear that. Because here's what happened. 6 months into my marriage, I'm looking at my wife going, you have an anger problem. Because she's throwing things and screaming and raging and blah, 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 blah. I thought I was just this innocent little victim. Because that's really what I was a big old baby. But she's freaking out, escalating. I'm shutting down. I don't think shutting down is the problem because at that time in my life, I'm shutting down because you're so out of control. Right? Right? Are you married to an escalator? Of course. It's a sick match made in the bowels of, no. Now, it's pretty normal. Escalators and avoiders how many of you are both escalators? All right. They got some passion. Yeah. You're French? Oh, come on. I'm American, and we eat American fries. I'm kidding. I do hate the French, though. I don't. I'm tempted to share with everyone, as an American, what I had to do in France to get out of the airport, but I'm not, because I think I'll get judged. I don't know. I'm a religion buster, but this is a little far. God, I want to, though. You know what I'll do? I will share it with Greg after tonight. If he says, yeah, you're fine, I'll share it tomorrow night. How's that? Look at me showing self-control. Did everyone see that? Feel free to clap. It's okay. I did it all by myself. So, I really hate turning around and seeing my large head. You know what? If I can find it, I will find, do y'all know Marius Brewer? Marius? Yeah, Marius. He's over on West Rand now. Used to be here. He visited us in America. I will bring a picture tomorrow to show you the difference in the size of heads. It was one of the most humiliating moments of my life. Was with that man trying on a hat of his. It was not cool. I mean, not small. There's a different word. I don't even know what that word is. Smaller. Smallest. Smally. So, so avoiders, I want you to hear me tonight. It is unhealthy, and you are leading your relationship to a break if you keep avoiding. It is not good. And what's really crazy is you have, I'm just picking on you for no apparent reason, because we're avoiders, right? We share that. So what was hard for me, because I rarely explode, so I never viewed myself as someone who has an anger issue. But if you think about it, why are we shutting down? Because we're angry. We're hurt. We're upset. We're disappointed. Why do you think someone escalates? Your wife or girlfriend, lover, who is she? Wife? All the nice. You are smooth. You got a high five from another wife. We do not support that kind of lifestyle in this church. And so we shut down, but we'll love you. We shut down because we're upset. But avoiders tend to see ourselves, because we don't explode and we're not yelling and screaming, as non-angry people. We are just as angry as the escalators. And what was sad for my wife is that I think we kind of were both convinced this was a her problem. Because she's the one slamming doors, throwing objects, freaking out, saying really hurtful things. We both were kind of convinced that she's the one with the anger issue. Then I go off to this 3-day event. You only have to do it for one evening to learn this stuff. And I find out, oh no, I have just as many problems as she does. And I genuinely was not aware of that. And so escalation leads to divorce, because really bad, hurtful, negative thing, it kind of cuts away at the sort of underguard of commitment to a relationship, because you'll start threatening divorce and threatening death and decapitation and things of that nature. And so, look at the thing. All right, I'll look. So, remember, it all starts with me feeling controlled. I shut down. Now she feels ignored. She escalates, and, oh, hello. Am I going to feel less controlled? This could have been our ATM receipt argument when we first got married. We almost killed each other over ATM receipts, because I could not remember to give them to her when I would withdraw like $20. And so every month, that bank statement would come, and she'd compare it to the checkbook registry and go, oh, there's $40 missing, $20 missing. It was never a grand amount. And then as an escalator, she's feeling ignored. She escalates. She's screaming at me, going, "That is so immature, and you're so stupid. A monkey could do this." She said that once. And it was very hurtful. And then I'm now feeling controlled, because she's threatening to take away the bank card, and I won't have any access to money and all these. So now I'm feeling controlled, and now my feelings are hurt. So then I shut down. Does this pattern look familiar to you? It's kind of freaky, isn't it? What? Not at all. Denial isn't just a river in Egypt, my friend. Now I'm curious if you're willing to share. Are you both escalators, or are you an avoider and you're an escalator? How does it work? Okay, I gave you like 3 options. Uh-huh. So you're an escalator. Is she an avoider? Most of the time. Yeah, I was going to say, listen, totally normal. Like 23 and a half years married to an intense escalator, I've learned a thing or two about escalating. Now, what's unfortunate for me is I'm not a purebred escalator. So when I do choose, when I don't have the emotional energy to do the right thing, as Jesus commands, and I choose to engage and to escalate with her, I learn quickly I am not as good as she is. And I've kind of come up with an analogy. I think when I start to escalate, my roaring lion wife probably sees me as a kitten. So like in my head, I'm like, roar, but she hears me, because I'm telling you, if I go here, she goes way over here. It's very humiliating. So you can do both, by the way. You can do both equally. One week you're shutting down, another week you're escalating. It doesn't mean anything. But what we're learning tonight is escalators. Who are my escalators? Is it okay to lose your stuff in a conversation with your spouse? Where does it lead you? To divorce. You cannot just keep escalating. And by the way, Scripture is incredibly clear on this matter. Jesus focuses on you and your reactions to others. And guess what? He really cares about how you react when it's hard, when they really have been mean, when they really have genuinely disappointed you, even betrayed you, right? Jesus really perks up and goes, all right, you call yourself a disciple. Now show me. And Jesus is rough on this matter, right? He's like, look, if you're loving the people who are being loving, dirtbags can pull that off, right? Anybody can do that. But if you're my disciple, they will know that by how you love one another. So how do you react when it's tough? When someone has pushed your button, when your spouse has pushed your button, how do you react? It matters even into eternity, people. This is a serious thing. Like, you are explicitly not allowed to just willfully dishonor others. And that's what this is. When I avoid, I'm dishonoring my wife. I'm dishonoring my child. I'm dishonoring you. When my wife escalates, she's dishonoring me. She's dishonoring our kids. She's dishonoring others. That is the highest punishable sin. This is not cool. Now, you're not going to be perfect, but you do have to be perfect in repentance. Right? You're going to blow it. It's going to happen. I think we shared last week that we got into a fight literally right after this thing at Daniel and Monica's house. And they noticed. So I don't worry. I'm not perfect. Like, that doesn't give me an excuse to willfully sin against you. That's not what I'm saying. But at the same time, I recognize it's not a perfect world. Mistakes happen. I do the wrong thing. You do the wrong thing. Our main priority, though, is to repent and come back together and reconcile. But this pattern is what spirals out of control, and the average couple, at least in the United States, lasts about 5 to 7 years of doing this pattern that goes unresolved until they divorce. So hopefully the $1 million question tonight is, nobody? How do we stop the cycle, right? Yeah, how do we stop the dance? I literally have no idea. I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, it's probably a dumb concept to teach because I don't really know how. Yes. We've been going about an hour, so why don't we take a break for about 20 minutes, get some coffee, some biscuits. Somebody said it, filthy mouth. So we'll take about a 20-minute break, and then when we come back, I'll give you, what? I'll give you the other two negative reactions, and then how we break this dance, and then we'll get tomorrow evening will be one of the most important skills that we teach couples.